It's time to install this carburetor from smartcarb. So I have been removing the old carburetor and carburetor casing. And then we have, you can see that in another video how you take the carburetor and carburetor casing out. But we have the rod here for the oil pump. Just pull that out like that. And then I have my new manifold here for the new carburetor, and I have this distance plate here. But I've been doing some grinding to it because they didn't fit together very well, so I've been doing some grinding to get them to fit well. So now I'm going to fit the distance plate down here and then the manifold with some gaskets. With the manifold you get a new gasket included, but then I bought for the distance plate, I bought this gasket here. I'll show you. I bought this gasket. It fits quite well, but they recommend that you buy the reed valve gasket kit from Malossi. I can show you here. It doesn't fit quite as well, so I'm going to go with this one. So the gasket's in place, and then we take the distance plate. It was quite a tight fit here, on like that, and then we take the manifold with the gasket. This distance plate has this this bit here is to cover up the hole for where the oil pump rod came up before. If you don't have this distance plate, there are some blocking thing you can buy to put in there. I'm also going to put some gasket silicone around the hole where the oil pump rod came up before. Now the distance plate is in place, then I can go on with my manifold and the gasket. Where did that go? Yeah, and my gasket for the manifold. I used the old screws that were for the old carburetor. Will fit here, because you don't get any new ones in to the manifold. But these will work just fine. I don't know if you can see it, but I have some problem here. The distance plate, you can see here there's a gap. It doesn't line up with this edge here, so I have to do some grinding to it to get it to fit here. So that's things that can happen that you need to be prepared for. So I have to take it away again and grind a bit here. Now the distance plate and the manifold is in place. I had to grind off quite a bit here to get it to fit against this edge on the engine casing. So let's see here. This was it says a distance plate for Malossi and Polini manifold, but as I said, it doesn't fit very well, so you have to grind a bit off. So maybe we want to try another one and see if they have a better, if they fit better. So now I can take my rubber and put that on here, and then the carburetor. Time for the next problem. See here, you can see it's very tight. The carburetor is very tight to the cylinder, and that's okay, but it won't fit with this. And I want this because this is for the cooling of the engine. This could be solved by buying a larger distance plate, a higher distance plate for the manifold. The one that I got is 6 millimeters, and the next step is, and the biggest one is 10 millimeters. and then you would get it up and you would be able to fit this. But as it is now, when I got a 6mm distance plate, the carburetor doesn't fit with this on. So what I did to solve this is that I made a hole in this. Not the best thing to do maybe, but I think there will be plenty of cooling anyway. But if you buy a larger distance plate, you will get this very close up to here. So I think the best thing is to have a manifold that goes straight up and then in a 90-degree angle. I think the MPR manifold, for example, is a better alternative, because then you would get it straight, and also then you can see here the air filter takes in the frame here. So if you had a 90-degree manifold that was a bit higher, it wouldn't be a problem. I think my solution will work, so I will try to fit this and then the carburetor. Now that's in place, and that's what I call a tight fit. You can see here, it's hard to see, you can see that I made a hole there and it fits exactly in there. And I'm still able to reach the choke, and here I can reach the idle screw, and I'll get the throttle wire here. So now what's next? I'm going to change the fuel hose, because this is too big. So I'm going to change that, so I need to take the fuel tank out. And when I'm doing that, I'm also going to remove the oil tank, because I won't be needing that anymore, so I might as well take it out. So I think that's the next step. Now the new fuel hose is in place, and I've removed the oil tank, which of course is not necessary, but I wanted to do that because I won't need it. So now it's just to put the tank back in place. Before I put the tank back into place, I need to change the throttle cable. So I got this new throttle cable that they recommended, and the old one here is just doesn't reach all the way, so it's too short. But my plan to change this is to attach the new cable here and pull it through all the way through the frame and up to here. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this now, and as you've seen before, it sits with 4 Phillips screws from the underside underneath here. So I'm going to remove them and take this away, and then I will be able to reach the throttle cable here. So the new throttle cable here that they recommended for this carburetor is like 2.4 meters long. I don't know what that's about, so we're going to have to see how we're going to do this. So now I've been putting the new and old cable together. I'm going to pull this through the frame. It was no problem to pull the new wire through, so that's through now, and I have a lot left here to use. Now I pulled the cable through here, and I have done like this, and then out here. And I've been taking the lid off the carburetor here, like that. And here is the metering rod, and I'm going to pull the throttle cable through here. But I'm also going to put on a 90-degree bend here, because I can't have it sitting straight up. I need a bend, so I'm going to do that. Now I've been fitting my 90-degree cable bend, so now I can fit this to the metering rod and then put it back in. it's a bit tight. So now the throttle cable is in place, and I attached it here also. So now I can put the fuel tank back in place. Oh. So now everything is in place and we are ready to do a test start. And what I can say is that, as I mentioned before, the distance plate, you have to do a bit of grinding to get it to fit. And if you're going to use the Polini manifold, I would take a distance plate that's 10 millimeters instead of 6. But I would prefer to have one that goes straight up a bit higher and then in 90 degrees. And the throttle cable they recommend for this is very, very long, so I would maybe look for a shorter one. The original one is maybe, I don't know, 5-10 centimeters too short, 5 centimeters maybe. And this is way too long. What more can I say? Well, when I did like this, as I showed you, I had to take up a hole here to get the carburetor to fit. So other than that, it's not much to it. Let's see how it works when we try to start it up. Now we have started the engine and it works fine, but as you can see outside, I won't be going anywhere anytime soon. So the test drive has to wait until maybe April or so. But what I've done more is that you can see that I've leaned the carburetor a bit to the right, so I get more space here, so it doesn't take in the frame when I go over a bump or so. But I'll get back to you this spring with the test ride and see how it works.